It all started in 1881 by America's 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt. He spent over $40 million on this project to help save the economy, even though at the time it would hurt the economy. This huge deal was known as the Panama Canal. In 1848, the first pieces of the Kansas City Southern and Mejack Products Railway Company was put together. The railway was built to ship from Panama to the other countries. The canal was also made to help carry out dirt from the future canal. And on February 26, 1880, Ferdinand de Lopez started work on the Panama Canal. Ferdinand de Lopez built the Suez Canal and knew about what it took in order to complete this canal. He mostly worked on it by himself, but for a few years, but quickly realized that he needed help in order to finish this project. So in 1882, the French team hired 30,000 West Indians to work on the construction. Work continued until 1889. Ferdinand de Lopez, as some call him, the French diplomat directing construction, had to abandon the project. Some 20,000 people died, mostly from malaria and fever, during the 8-year endeavor. At the time, they needed doctors and nurses to care for the people, which took a lot of money to bring them over and work. The leaders of Germany and France decided to stop funding the construction of the Panama Canal, which stopped work immediately. Ferdinand had to sell the property, which is where the Americans came in. So in 1889, the U.S. Assistant Naval Secretary Theodore Roosevelt supported the canal crossing Panama. Since the project was such a big deal and was so expensive, the Congress did have setbacks. George S. Morrison was one of the main commission members who argued against the Panama Canal location. Since Panama was then a part of Colombia, Roosevelt began negotiating that with the country to obtain necessary rights. Later that year, the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives voted in favor, rather than Nicaragua, as site of the canal through Central America. The purchase of the French headland for $40 million was authorized on June 28, 1902, known as the Spooner Act, which helped lead to the $40 million purchase by Theodore Roosevelt. As they were working, many times workers would build parts and then overnight they would fall down because of a dirt landslide. This was very frustrating and set the workers back a while to rebuild the parts that had fallen. Although they received a grant to buy the canal, Theodore Roosevelt and new partner Jimmy Carter knew it was not enough money to provide for the whole canal. Although they didn't receive any more funds, they were able to use what they had in order to continue and make more progress. In 1903, Panama declared independence from Colombia and the Hay-Buenaventura Treaty was signed, granting U.S. a narrow strip of land across the Isthmus of Panama and the right to use the canal. With this treaty, we were able to continue work and progress further. The team of workers was hard at work and continued for a long time. Later on, in 1904, the United States bought more canal equipment and infrastructure from the French for $10 million. The U.S. dollar then became Panama's official currency. The construction of the Panama Canal was the first time that an American president was able to leave the country. Construction continued on the canal. After hard days at work, progress was way more noticeable. Work began on the locks, which are 80 feet high and 100 feet long. A.B. Nichols stated that the locks, besides being difficult to construct, would also be much more expensive than anticipated by the Board of Consulting Engineers. But they were able to easily defeat this challenge. Quote, the plan depended on the building of at the dam of Guton Lake on the Atlantic side of the isthmus to control the river and create a large lake that would cover much of the canal route. Guton Lake, with a surface of 85 feet above sea level, submerged close to 164 square miles of jungle. The lake also provided water to the system of locks to lift ships up from the sea to the lake for the trip through the canal. 2 more sets of locks at the Pedro Miguel and Miraflores raised and lowered ships on the Pacific side of the isthmus. Construction on the Panama Canal locks involved vast amounts of expedition and pouring of millions of cubic yards of concrete. Work at the locks began in 1907 with excavation at the lock site. At Guton, over 4,500,000 cubic yards of material were removed by blasting and drilling. When construction workers reached the final floor level for the chambers, they removed another 186,000 cubic yards of material, all by hand. At Pedro Miguel and Miraflores, nearly 4 million cubic yards of material were removed from the lock sites, including 500,000 cubic yards of material were again removed by hand. The first water was entered through the upper lock on October 14, 1913. The canal lock chamber can fill water in only 8 minutes. On August 15, 1914, just less than a year later, the 50-mile-long canal opened to ship traffic. The SS Akan was the first ship to traverse the waterway. After the canal was built, the Panamanians wanted their territory back, but we would not give it back to them until later, because we wanted the rights to ship across it. In 1973 and 74, negotiations on a more equitable canal agreement took place under Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. This agreement let American and other countries use the canal as much as they needed, and the Panamanians could not stop them. 8,000 miles and 5 months travel to the shortened distance of thousands. The Panama Canal project goes great with debate and diplomacy. It is a huge debate about financials and America being able to support the canal costs. The Panama Canal also goes great with diplomacy because the whole project deals with the Panamanians and the French when buying the property. The Panama Canal changed the world for transportation reasons. Thank you.